From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Now stay with me for a minute. Is it possible that we have underestimated the value of Patrick Mahomes across the league? Welcome back to Locked On Chiefs. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, as well as your host over at RGR Football on YouTube. Check that out as well. And I just want to say, this sounds completely counterintuitive, right? It's conversation that doesn't even really enter into your mind space as somebody who follows the Chiefs, covers the Chiefs, or is a Chiefs fan directly. But we're going to talk about what he did. A great piece by Terez Paylor came out today that we have to cover the mechanisms of how Patrick Mahomes is making a difference outside of the world of football. And we're going to cover it later in the show, how these running back duties might be divvied up when we take a look at the running back core. Now, it's one thing to select a surprise first-round player at a given position. It's another thing to work them into the rotation of what is a Super Bowl winning roster. This is something that I think has gone under the radar a little bit. And as we start to get here, if you've missed any of my position reviews, I've been doing at least one a week, digging deep into a given position. We had the CBs, we had the defensive ends. Today it's the running backs. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine the other night about just how good a fit this is and how crazy it is. And he thinks I'm nuts that I still don't think that a running back in the first round is particularly good value. That can all be argued back and forth however you want to do it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably wouldn't have been there by the time the Chiefs picked again. Maybe might not have lasted very far in the second round at all. So even a trade back could have cost you. So I can't fault them for what they did at all. He is such a perfect fit. I'm really excited about what his ceiling is going to be eventually. But currently, he walks into a room that has some experience in it, and he has to fit into that role. Now, obviously, we know Damien Williams and his performance last season, particularly in the Super Bowl, was really at the top of his game. 2 years running now, Damien Williams has been a guy that peaks in the postseason, and that's really all you can ask for from an offensive player, honestly, a player of any kind, to go through and make it through a full season with all the bumps, bruises, injuries, delays, rehabs, and then to peak in January and February and do your job to get things done. That's commendable. And Damien Williams makes the most money of the position, and that's something that does play into the formula. I have heard folks asking about, is he going to be traded? Is someone else going to make room for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I don't think that's in the cards. If you missed the other rumors that have been going around, I did a video over at RGR Football last night, and you can check that out as well. But this rumor in particular, I just don't see it happening for two reasons. One, that Brett Veach and Andy Reid were both guys that made comments this run up to the draft about their attrition at the position, about how many running backs that they went through last year in order to keep guys on the field, to keep a running back available to try and use as part of the game plan. And those are nuts and bolts that it just comes down to. You have to have the bodies on the field at the position. So I don't feel that they want to do that either. But they also realize that a guy that peaks late in the season, a guy that can do everything that you ask him to do in all three phases, running, catching, and pass protecting, I think that that's a commodity that you need to hold on to. Now, is Damien Williams a guy that is going to be there every game and that you know is going to give 100% to get back out on the field every time he gets hurt? I don't know that that's true. Is he a guy that you feel can be a mentor to a younger player that he doesn't have a previous relationship with in order to bring him along and get him ready to play meaningful snaps? I don't know if that's true either. But the fact is, that's the situation that they're in. And I think it's going to be a case where he's going to be the lead dog for now. Maybe that changes through the course of the season. We don't know. But certainly to begin it, Damien Williams, I think, has to be the guy that walks in as the number one to start with until we see something happen. And the interesting thing is if you flip things and you're not talking about perceived talent or perceived production, which Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damien Williams would be the top two, clearly above the board on everything. When you look beyond that and where they're spending the money, the newest acquisition outside of Edwards-Helaire is DeAndre Washington, who got a sizable chunk and whose cap number is close to $900K this year. Now, that's not much in terms of the total cost for the Chiefs cap, But at the position, it is significant that he's making more than Darwin Thompson. He's making more than Darrell Williams, who's coming back from injury. And Elijah McGuire is still in the mix as well. I know I have a feeling he'll end up on the practice squad, but you just never know. So that gets into how do you justify the money that you're spending versus the reps that you're taking. And clearly Damien and Clyde Edwards are going to be, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be the first two. The question becomes for me, is it a question of fit and finish? Who is better suited for X play? Assuming, of course, that Darrell Williams is back. And I'm going to call him the small Darrell Williams at this point because the other Darrell Williams is an offensive lineman. So, there's relativity there. But if Darrell's 100%, and you guys know that I'm particularly fond of Darrell and the things that he does for a guy his size to have the acceleration, the pass catching ability, I think that's really unique. And I want to see him make it to this roster. But it's a question of he and DeAndre Washington about who could play that third back role. And I'm not so sure that it has to be a defined role. Because I feel like Washington is a pass catcher as well, certainly has more experience than Darrell in terms of touches and carries in the league. But also, I don't think has exactly played up to his performance level. These are two guys that are, again, waiting in the wings behind these two high-profile names that are waiting for a chance to really get in there and make something happen. I thought Darrell had come on later in the season. Especially after what happened with Shady kind of fading away there. I'm really interested to see how he recovers from the injury because I thought he was on a tear. I think the postseason wins might have been a little bit more obvious had he been available, and I'm hoping that he returns to his previous ability. But that's a nice four-guy room to be able to throw at somebody. And I'm assuming that's regular season. With Darwin Thompson being a possible fifth, although I find it very hard with Anthony Sherman obviously on the roster for a reason, and the question mark that is John Lovett, who Andy had some glowing things to say about last year. I find it hard that they're going to keep five tailbacks. I think 4 is about the maximum. But that might leave Darwin Thompson available for the practice squad. And certainly Elijah McGuire where he was last year at the practice squad. That gives you, again, more options you can call up in case of injury. And if the Chiefs see that attrition that they saw last year, they have to feel good about this core of running backs that they can call on. So that's where I see it today. We're not going to go too into the fullbacks. I know you guys are kind of spent on my fullback love here, but we'll see what comes of them as everybody gets into camp. See what new tweaks Andy Reid has for what could be a grand total of 5, 6, I doubt 7, but you never know, backs of some kind. So that's where we stand today with news of training camp, starting to get planned out. We'll see what happens and if there are any other tweaks, cuts, or acquisitions. But let me know what you guys think of the running back situation. Leave your comments over at iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. It's summertime, so everything kind of slows down in terms of the reviews, but we do appreciate them and hope that you like the show. I love those 5-star reviews, by the way. And please check out Rogue Analytics, check out RGR Football over on YouTube, and tomorrow we have that special coming from the Locked On Football Network of a host of hosts doing a roundtable that I think you guys are going to enjoy. It's going to be a great episode. It will be here on the channel. Might be released late because of all the teams on the Locked On Network. We release fairly early so that you guys have the post-work and the overnight crowd. Everybody that works swing shift, we want you to have the show. So once again, and as always, thank you for listening to us today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Ryan Tracy is the founder of Rogue Analytics and the host of RGR Football on YouTube. Follow him there. Chris Clark is a senior analyst at ChiefsDigest.com where you can get his work. Rate and review at Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform.